All right, this video is going to be about chapter 18, and let's get to it. So chapter 18 is about power laws, and let's just double check that you got this out of reading the book. That is, a normal distribution is that sort of bell curve idea. The observations are more or less distributed evenly, and the highest density is near the mean. Power law distribution is where the frequency distribution is such that a whole bunch more observations get for relatively few values. Usually you observe this whenever you hear about the 80-20 rule. So like 20% of, for example, 20% of the links get 80% of the traffic. There are super skewed distributions here. So that's a power law distribution. I'm going to bring up long tail here because you might as well bring it up here, and that is you can either go with wanting to have a super high popularity, or you can try to sort of broaden and flatten the distribution by promoting those less popular items. Just thinking about, you probably don't remember this, but back in the video store days, we had Blockbuster Video. Oddly enough, they were called Blockbuster, and they were there to exploit a power law distribution. And so you would go, and there would be, hundreds of copies of movies, of the very current movies, and almost no movies that weren't on the, sort of top 50 list of movies for that week. There were other more niche video stores at the time where they had relatively few of those really popular movies, but you could go in there and find something really obscure. So that would be like the long tail. So power law, again, 80-20 rule. And long tail, the idea there is just to try to get the other ones sort of popularized. All right, the rich get richer phenomenon is just basically the power law distribution. There's not a lot to say here, and it's because really this is just such a duh thing. So if we have a situation, for example, when we're talking about like the web, where we had a few websites were put up at the beginning, and they were the new entrants, you'd call that there, and then because they have that initial visibility, they get more visibility. And so rich get richer just means, if you're the first one at the park with your sign up, then you're more likely that everyone's going to see your sign and copy it, or link to it, or whatever else. It happens with academic articles and other stuff. Okay, so that, I just want to emphasize, rich get richer is just by definition. If you're the first one there, you get the initial visibility. And so you're almost already going to be a power law distribution. Putting the sort of a new layer on it, and that is showing the popularity of something, that's a public signal. And we saw in chapter 16, whenever you put a public signal in there, you're more likely to have people going along with it. And this just compounds the power law distribution. So it's not necessarily, by the way, the power law distribution is already there. The popularity doesn't cause it. It more or less, we could argue here that it accentuates it. But given it together, if we expected a normal distribution and we showed popularity, then you might get a power law distribution. So marketing-wise, I talked about Blockbuster Video. So with blockbusters, you need a quick popularity, you need to be an early entrance, and in that case, you need to have this idea where you're spreading the word about how popular you are. And so, for example, if I'm introducing a new phone, I might want to be very quickly in, get a lot of people to adopt it soon, and then announce always how popular I am. You see politicians doing this all the time, and that is, when we go into a political race, especially in the United States, they're always talking about the polls. And whoever, for example, if we're talking about like the Democratic primary that just went on, for a long time we'd have like whoever is the front runner at a given point, it sort of piles on to them in theory. And it, in some ways it takes a little while to spread out. Okay, so that's blockbusters. The long tail is pretty much the inverse of that. If you want to exploit that, you're going to downplay the popularity of others. That is, we're going to say popularity doesn't mean it's going to make you happy. That's why we're saying you're appealing to a niche and personalizing. So That's not a lot to chapter 18, so we'll see you in the next video.